going to every Puerto Rican event, Dominican event. You were like dancing, showing your salsa. Then you were also up in Harlem with national, oh
National
God.
Action Network. Yeah.
Yes, sorry, I'm like, I should know that.
Yeah.
And right now, I think that's the difference solely by the fact that this generation of millennial and Gen Z Puerto Ricans are all going right to the map right now. Like, this shit can't be a colony anymore. We need people that support our independence. And when you said self-determination, you said that now there's no other Puerto Rican elected official, either local, state, or look, AOC didn't even say what you just said, but I had to push back on you, and I know you get that. So real
as
quick,
you should. As you should.
I will. That's right. I will do that. So as we wrap up, can you just give people some of your information? Oh, wait, actually, wait, let me play this before I let you go. You might not only hear it, but it's better if you watch it, and it's super short. Okay, sorry about that. Give me a second, everybody. Give me a second. Yeah, so literally my favorite. So as you close this out, just give some people closing thoughts and some information they should know.
Yo, you want somebody that's real? Vote for me. You want somebody that's actually going to represent the Bronx? Vote for me. If you're sick and tired of how fake Richie Torres is, vote for me. And if you don't live here, tell people to vote for us. We need you to donate. We need you to volunteer. We need you to make calls and rock with us. Of course, follow us on social. Mike Blake 1922 on IG. Follow us on X. Mr. Mike Blake or Blake for the Bronx. But look, real talk, we need you right now. We're running against someone who's got a lot of money. He's going to have a lot more APAC money. They move in a lot of ways. $25, $50, $100, whatever you can do matters. Go to michaelblakeforcongress.com, www.michaelblakeforcongress.com. Go to that, donate, volunteer, tell people here in the Bronx to go vote for us. And again, I remind people, June 23rd is the last day to vote. It's not the first day to vote. You can vote by mail. You can vote early in person, or you can vote on E-Day. We need you, and it's time to change the game. We got to have people that are real, and just I'm all day, every day. I talk about I'm a kid from Creston and Burnside. right? I'm a PS 79 118 deal with Clinton. That's how I rock. That's how I understand. We're the ones who sold dinners on Saturdays to pay rent. My daddy drove the church van. My mama led in Sunday school. My godparents led communion. I've been preaching since I've been 13. Our family's from Jamaica. I understand this. This is home for me, right? And we deserve better. I say that all the time. We deserve better. I'm tired of people looking at the Bronx as if we're second class. I always remind people the same Park Avenue in Manhattan is the same one here up in the Bronx, but we don't get treated that way. And I want you to know, whether if you're in Little Italy by Fordham, whether you're at Little Yemen or you're in Little Jamaica, you're in the same district. And you may not live here, but let me tell you something. If you know and follow the Yankees or Bronx Zoo or Botanical Garden, you know this district. If you love hip hop, doo-wop, or salsa, you know this district. That's what I'm trying to let people know. You should have a love for the Bronx and a love for New York 15. And for us to win, we need you. So help us so we can go bring this thing home.
Yeah, and I'll just say this last thing. The my support for you has also, in my mind, grown exponentially in the last month, because in the Bronx we do now have sooner open the Universal Hip Hop Museum. We also have in the Bronx the first hip hop high school in the country,
Shout out to
underneath
Jason.
the Department of Education and Jason Reyes. And I was talking to Jason. I said, listen, y'all gonna have to push a little bit harder on the Hip Hop Museum for more affordable housing. But for me, as Rosa Clemente, felt like we started this culture and you're kind of seeing the efforts of almost 50 years, and you're part of that hip hop generation. So I'm gonna have you on again. I'm gonna try to get down to you, but honestly, I'm gonna have you on again. And I'm really grateful. My family's in your district, my dad's business is in your district, and I wish you the best of luck. I'm gonna see you again. We're gonna bring you on, but let's make sure that if you are in New York City, if you are in the Bronx in this district, please register to vote. However you vote,
Yeah,
just vote at this moment, where they can be somebody that I think the people are really gravitating to you. So thank you so much. I got your back.
I
And I
appreciate you.
appreciate that. Yeah.
What's your pop's business? We got to go support.
Yeah, he doesn't really want that. He's like an old school bodega person that's like,
we got to pull up and support our people.
I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
In fact,
all right.
the next time I go down there to see them, I'm gonna take you right to that spot.
All right, we'll pull up. We'll pull up.
All right. And stay safe, fam. There's a lot of violence against people running. So please stay safe as well.
I appreciate you. Much love always.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah. I gotta push back. I was like, I need an answer. Yeah, so I brought Ryan and Rebecca on, but just a couple of things.
What up, B Fresh? What up, Rosa?
I know. I was like, I literally just see Rebecca Smith and B Fresh up like, can you come on? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Ryan and B Fresh. And the reason I'm fangirling like this is because, especially to B Fresh, I have had the privilege of this young woman now like a powerhouse to be part of her life. So we're going to take about a 3-minute break. You're going to hear Judge Mrs. Politics, and we're going to talk to Ryan and Rebecca.
Great to be here.
I'm so glad you are.
Excited.
And here we are. I was like, this is exactly where we're at. So two quick things in the world. Today, 41 years ago, the Move family was bombed in Philadelphia by the then black mayor, Good. And yes, today. What? Oh, sorry about the techno. Give me a second, everybody. Sorry about this. Heart. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me restart. So today, 41 years ago, the Move family was bombed on Osage Avenue on the orders of the police commissioner and also at the mayor, the first black mayor, Good. Mike Africa was a child literally born in incarceration because when the Move family was bombed and they took leaders of the Move and imprisoned them for about 20 to 30 years, Mike Jr.'s mom, Debbie Africa, was pregnant in her cell. And she hid her pregnancy and she gave birth in her cell. And the women around her knew, so they were protecting her through this whole time period. And when I think about the story, I said, oh, okay, maybe one of those two correctional officers were like, all right, we ain't going to tell anybody. That's Debbie Africa's or elder Debbie Africa's story to tell. So I also encourage people to go and watch 40 Years a Prisoner about Mike Africa. And when we wrap up with Ryan and V and Rebecca and Ryan, I'm going to play you a good 7-minute piece on PBS that really breaks everything down. You traveling, mask up and don't go on a cruise. Woman diagnosed with hantavirus after being on cruise ship is now in the final stages of her life. I'm telling y'all, this is how COVID began. I'm just saying. Like literally cruises. I went on one, would never go again. They're petri dishes. And this is not the same ship where they held people. And then I just saw here locally, so I'm based in Albany, New York, is considered the Hudson Valley and Capital Region District of New York. There are 3 people from another cruise that are now in the hospital with this virus that are not supposed to live. And the CDC has already admitted it's in New Jersey. What was the state? It was New Jersey was one of the states. Virginia, one of the states. And I talked about the other 2. I can't off my dome, but there's 4 states right now that have people with the virus. So, I tell my friends and then everybody's like, you're a conspiracy theory. And I'm like, get your mask. We're about to lock down. And of course, the government wasn't good during Biden, being honest, and now under Trump. And the menopause minute, I'm a 54-year-old woman in menopause. I skipped perimenopause because the operation I had, I went right into it. And to all the men out there and your wives or your partners that have a problem, let me just say this. Hair loss, hot flashes, bone loss, skin issues, irregular or no periods, decreased breast fullness, mood changes, insomnia, can't remember anything, skin issues, vaginal dryness, irregular periods, urinary incontinence, loss of libido, and weight gain. Every day, the universal experience of women is not having a child is menopause. And you could have 1 to 12 of them every day. I'm in the 2 days where I hate even hearing my husband's voice. I was like, don't talk to me. I don't really want to look at you. What did I do? You did nothing. You're a man. Okay, you did everything wrong. So anyway, menopause minute. There are now 2 states that have, in practices at the working place, given 5 days when a woman is in menopause, 5 days in the month, they could stay home and get paid. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So with me right now is again, like I said, my girl. I'm always gonna be like Be Fresh. And then Ryan, who I've known for a long time. In fact, he brought me out there to speak a couple times out there being in the Twin Cities. So I'm real quick with their bios. Ryan Redan is an author, educator, and cultural worker with over 15 years of experience supporting individuals, teams, and organizations. He is the author of Breaking the Privilege Frame, a timely expansion of race, privilege, and the historical forces that shape them. The book invites readers to examine, identify, engage in an honest dialogue, and work towards equity by challenging conventional narratives about how race operates. His writing has appeared in outlets including the Twin Cities Daily Planet, the Good Men Project, Minnesota Public Radio, and he currently lives with his wife and daughters in Atlanta. And then Rebecca Smith is a powerhouse with more than 2 decades of leadership, community, and legacy media, journalism, and strategic human communication. She is the founder and CEO of Be Fresh Productions, a creative production agency established in 2005, and the CEO of Speak Minneapolis. At Speak Minneapolis, Rebecca leads the mission to activate community connections and creative opportunities through access to studios, equipment, and inclusive media and education. So, everybody who saw what went down in the church and how people were detained, that was one of Be Fresh's Rebecca's partner who captured all that. So, I mean, the work that they did as a collective while, Minnesota was in what I call a like long rising up was incredible. And that's how most of us as activists or organizers, really heard what was the truth of going on. So, I love you both dearly. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you've all been doing. And just like a quick check-in on what kind of work you've been doing and what do you think about kind of the moment we are in this country and what it means for educators or media people and what some of the things that you have seen that are working well. So, B, I'm gonna start with you. You know what I'm saying? I love you so much. I'm gonna start with you.
Thank you so much for having us, Rosa. And when you said Ryan was going to be on, I was very excited. I've known Ryan. We went to high school together. I don't know if you knew that. So we go back.
I did not
Way
know
back.
that. That's
Way
kind of
back.
dope. Oh, I love that.
And that's just the fun of Minneapolis. We're very connected. We do have really strong community building, and we continue with that community building, no matter if Ryan's in Atlanta or he's here. And so I'm really excited to talk about what we can really learn from Minneapolis. And particularly through Ryan's book, I got to talk with him a little bit about this moment and why this book is so important, and looking at media and why this moment is really important for us to stay independent. So I'm excited to be here. And Ryan, I want to kind of pass it to you and talk about your book, because it came out before Operation Metro Surge.
Yeah.
It did. What's up, yo? Rosa, thank you for having us. I was super excited that you were gonna be on B. It's gonna take practice, and I'll call you Be Fresh if you prefer Rebecca. So
I know.
Name that.
It's always gonna be part of her. It's intersectionality of her names.
No, but I'm super humbled to be here. Yeah, I couldn't agree more about just the tight-knit organizing and community that I feel like is fundamental to being from Minneapolis. And it's wild now being in Atlanta and talking to folks, and you realize just the reach that Minneapolis organizers have had, particularly during and after Operation Metro Surge. Like, so I'm down here and I got involved in organizing a little bit and trying to do what I can. And folks are referencing people in Minneapolis as models. And I just, I have a really, really fierce, I would say fierce, determination to make sure that people understand that what happened in Minneapolis during Operation Metro Surge didn't happen out of nowhere. That came from years and decades of people organizing and trial and error and fighting tooth and nail to get folks with power to do something. And you were just talking to Rosa, Michael Blake. I remember seeing him for the first time speak at on Mark Lamont Hill's show, and being like, okay, like there's a lot of those same conversations were happening and are happening now in Minneapolis, right? Like there's a lot of these things are happening, and Minneapolis is in many ways a bellwether for what's possible and what can happen. And so I'm just super honored to be able to know those people, to learn from them, to be here with y'all. I wrote the book coming out of my experience in Minneapolis, particularly the anti-racist organizing that was happening or lack thereof. I shouldn't say lack thereof because I don't mean any diss at all. I think it's just we're in a new place, or we're in a place where we have to really rethink what it means to organize. And Rosa, I say this in the book, but it was a conversation with you at Vices to Verses. Now, we were on way back. Vices to Verses was at the U.
Oh, yeah.
And then we were talking about hip hop education and organizing. And we were sitting at a table, and it was you, myself, and Derica Blackman.
Oh, Derica.
And you said white people need a support group. And I was in this place like, what do you mean white people need to support each other? We need to stop talking about whiteness, particularly as a white man, right? Like it's privilege, you're centering yourself. But that always stayed with me because, I just come from a place where I know that I want to be fully human. I know that I am fully human, and nobody was born better or worse than me. And that whiteness told me that I was better than other people, and told other people that, and I was supposed to think of other people as less than me. And so the idea of doing my own work and healing always stayed with me. And that really is the catalyst for the book, is thinking about what has whiteness cost white people, and how do we do things in real, genuine solidarity, as opposed to trying to do things for people and save other people. Like we're in this together. And I fundamentally believe that. And that's what that's what the book is about.
Yeah. And in the book, right, like I was reading a lot of the reviews, and one of them really stuck with me and said the idea that racism has anything to do with the health and well-being of white people is almost exclusively framed as a positive for white people. You will hear that white people need to give up or sacrifice from anti-racism, but missing from that is the reality that we sacrificed and gave up a lot to be considered white. And right, like that is why what I think about it personally is, and I always tell if I'm doing lectures or whatever, and even if there's only one white person in the room or all the people were white, is that white people have also been robbed of their radical history in this country. So if you're studying the 60s to the early 70s, most everybody has heard of the Students for Democratic Society. And then other white people in it said, this ain't doing shit. We got to move to an underground revolutionary movement as white people in this country. And then that's how white people begin to also be political prisoners, because let's say Laura Whitehorn or David Gilbert not only helped Black radicals escape, not only were part of appropriating monies from banks, but they did what they call strategic bombing. And this is the Weather Underground. And if you watch the documentary, all of them at one point said, we didn't know we would even be like living this long. What we were doing is putting our bodies on the line. And Laura Whitehorn is one of those people, David Gilbert, that spent decades in jail for their activities. So when I read that, I was like, still right. And even now, more than ever, it's like white people do have a radical history. And how do you begin to tell as a white man that history given in the political times we are in right now?
Yeah, like for me, that was a big motivation. One of the goals that I hoped would come out of writing the book was a reclaiming of a radical history, right? Of that names like um I'm spacing out, but like Map Seagrist or um the Highlander Center, who well, I'm spacing on his name. It will come to me.
That's fine.
But yeah, my point is that there is a history there, right? There's the San Patricio Brigade, this group of American fighters who switched sides and fought for Mexico because of values and alignment. Like there are examples, even people that we don't know or that we know well, but we don't necessarily know the whole truth. Cats like Albert Einstein, and I'm not saying he's not problematic, but he was very much like he was lecturing at HBCUs and when it was illegal. We could tell different stories about people and about our country that allow for white folks to see themselves differently, right? To see themselves as fully human and to actually make a choice, to be free about how are they going to rock, what values, what worldview do they want to align with. I think one of the most insidious things whiteness does is tell us we have to be one way, right? That you're white and therefore this is what it is. It's vote for Trump. It's oppose public goods, even if it kills you. Even if it kills you, right? And then you have to contort yourself and support genocide. And you have to convince yourself that man's somehow is not telling the truth when he tells you on national TV he's not thinking about you at all. And you have to do that because otherwise you have to admit to yourself you've been lied to. And that's a hard thing to do. And I hope my book allows for some space for us to say, yeah, we've been lied to, like you said, on purpose. And that they needed to do that because there is a history that's aligned with community, that's aligned with humanity, that fiercely fought for justice. It's not, it's certainly not the majority, all the time, but it's enough where if we start telling that truth, I think we can make some real gains. At least I hope so.
Yeah. And I'm gonna have to call you B. Don't be mad at me because I'm like, but also should I just say Rebecca? I don't know. Because that's my identity. Can I still call you B Fresh?
Of course.
Okay. So as an Indigenous person, someone who grew up in the Twin Cities, as well as a journalist, and then making sure that public access happens, and someone that's really been like for 20 years following and uplifting particularly Black and brown women of color. Just give people a little background on who you are and in this moment while legacy media is being destroyed, which is fine, like whatever. But now the attack, people always talk about the attack against NPR, PBC, but people are not talking enough about the attack on public access.
That's right. Thank you, Rosa. I will always be fresh. So I love to reconnect with people that know my history and have seen me on the ground doing this work for over 20 years. I'm Minneapolis born and raised. I've always come back home here, lived across the country in different places. I'm a filmmaker, a photographer, a media entrepreneur, and I'm also a descendant of the White Earth Anishinaabe. My dad is a tribal member and raised me and gave me a camera and was my first believer in what I do and telling stories through video and photo, and is a really big part of why I do what I do. He's our family historian. And so I grew up with him telling stories, and now I'm the keeper of those stories. And he is experiencing the first signs of dementia. And so I'm his main caretaker right now. And so that means a lot to me to be able to have the time with him, spend that time to capture those stories. And it's always been that for me. It's been about preserving history and connecting with people through storytelling. And I like to say what I do is people-powered media. I've been doing that for 20 years. Do you feel like, Ryan, that sums it up?
Oh man, I've been hearing you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you saying that. I think I brought you into a class and you said that, and I was like, that's exactly what she does.
Yeah, I love to be in community with especially students and young people that keep you honest, and also just people in community that can be a reflection for you, whether that's providing feedback, things that you need to do differently to really serve your community. And so everything that I've done, from working with Viacom and MTV, so I've had experience with corporate media, to working with Laura Flanders, and also covering the 2008 election for Rock the Vote, which is where we met Rosa.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've always brought with me that sense of wanting to amplify community voices. And so in 2019, I got an email from the city of Minneapolis looking for the steward of an operator of public access TV. And I got excited because it said, community media. And that's what I love to do, and had previously worked at the public access station in St. Paul, and put my company's name in the hat for the proposal, and found out in February 2020 that we were selected. So that's Be Fresh Productions, and we ended up launching Speak MPLS. So that's Speak Minneapolis. So it's a member-powered community media center where we provide equipment, studios, classes, media education for youth, and we also provide media capacity for other media organizations that are independent. So as you can imagine, like Ryan said, this sort of moment in time in Minneapolis around the murder of George Floyd, to now bookended in 2026 with Operation Metro Surge, there's a lot that has happened during that time, but a lot that has not changed and shifted in the way that you would imagine a movement would take you forward. So I definitely love to hear from you, Ryan, just moments of reflection, having written the book after the murder of George Floyd and seeing the response. I'm sorry, Rosa, I can't help but
I'm good. Go ahead, girl.
Okay, let me pass it to you.
No, it's fine. Well, that's the whole point of a media like this, right? Like, we get trained at some level of like the things that it should look like, and then I'm more like, yo, I'm in my bedroom. I don't have a tripod.
Making it work.
The lava lamp is everything.
The lava lamp. It's my jellyfish lamp. V knows I love to do. This is my whole life. I love to do this kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
And then Alicia right now is ringing the bells. So as you continue, I'll step away for a moment. But no, that's the whole thing. And I kind of want us to get back in some way, because people have been doing media and progressive media before all of this existed, and I'm like, we can get back there. And you know what, it's not going to be, quote, a blur background and nobody's doing our makeup and the light, whatever. I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm like, this shit going down is fucking crazy. Don't be worrying the aesthetics, be worrying that right now this might be taken away from all of us. So yes, Ryan,
that part. Listen, no, I appreciate being asked the questions, and I like to talk about the book and all that, but I also want to hear from y'all and what Speak is doing, because I think that's really important. But again, like, I think a lot of people do start a conversation about Minneapolis with George Floyd and Operation Metro Surge for good reason, right? Those were sparked national attention, international attention,
right?
But the reality is, the George Floyd rebellions and protests, those happened because folks were organized around the murder of Jamar Clark. And that happened because folks were organized and outraged about the murder of Terrence Franklin. And the New York Times, there's the whole book about, Back in the Blue. And I believe it's the New York Times, or one of the major outlets, even did a study on who killed Mookie, because he was murdered in a basement, and you know they were getting away with telling people, oh, he reached for the gun. Like people are like, that just doesn't happen. I want to be very clear. That does not happen. But and even that wasn't the first time I went to a protest in Minneapolis about the murderous police department there was Fong Lee. And there was like 5 people motivated about that, right? Like I remember, and shout out to Bao Phi, who always spoke Fong Lee's name into space. But it was on tape that they planted a gun. There was no, you know, it was, everything was there. They planted a gun, they were doing this. And so the moments that the world saw came from a lot of mourning, a lot of grief, a lot of just, we're not going to take this anymore, and having out of necessity to build. Now, let me pause and say, like, I got the privilege and honor of seeing folks build from the ground what resistance looked like. I was in community there. I was in the spaces. I was in knock office before it burnt down, right? Yeah. Like doing all these things. I seen the interpersonal conflicts that happen in those spaces that got to be navigated. I seen all of that. And so for me to see Minneapolis respond to Operation Metro Surge in the way that it didn't surprise me. But having, you know, so I'm sorry to hear about your dad. That is how me and my family ended up in Atlanta. My partner's grandfather was diagnosed and we came down to caretake. And so I was actually at a distance a bit from Metro Surge. Like I'd go back, we split our time. But I was at a distance. And so I was able to see what from an outside perspective for the first time, a lot of what I had experienced on the inside, being an organizer in Minneapolis. And it only emboldened the message. Like you asked about the book, particularly, like what I understood and what I've experienced is being in relationship is healing. Even in the worst case scenarios, being in community is healing. Yeah. That rather than try to act like I don't have power, I need to own my power and use it in service of this community that is the only reason I have power. And so that was what I was seeing. You know, we saw Jacob Fry, the mayor, at the height of the George Floyd, he got dog walked when Candace asked him would he abolish the police. Right? It was a moment. And I was like, his political career is over. There's absolutely no turning back from this. But back to your conversation with Michael today, Rosa, Democrats do what Democrats do. And not only is his political career not over, it's thriving. And the media it's moved away from this dude just vetoed the city council extending an eviction moratorium.
And that's the whole point. And I think more and more people are just like, we're done. But also the hard fact is, yeah, y'all done because of the Supreme Court as well. Right. Like knowing beef for so long, like when nobody was covering when I ran, I don't know where we're at. We met. She was like, I want to follow you. I was like, fuck it. Ain't nobody else following me. Let's go. Right. Like after Roe versus Wade, I'm like, okay, the country didn't die. That's crazy in itself. Patriarchy. Then we see the rising up of Minnesota at levels because, as you lay out and be this historical timeline, that city's always been radical and revolutionary. And I'm at the point right now where I was like, I'm like, I don't think any of this is going to fix this. And what does that look to fix it? Well, what does that mean for millions and millions of people in this country? And how this government is just, it's just going to keep getting more fascist and all of that. And the attack on media. So be like, you're seeing the attacks in real time, particularly to public access, NPR, and NPR public access and whatever the third one is. I don't know how we break through the noise. Like, the reason everybody knew what happened with Georgia is because she was part of your crew. So I wonder if you could take us to that moment where you get the text where it's like, yo, I'm locked up. And then how you did keep Speak Minneapolis for being kind of the most media that people were turning into from the country, the rest of the country.
Yeah. And Ryan, thank you for painting the historical picture. And then, to add to that, you have like the American Indian movement started in the
100%.
60s in
Part of the
Minneapolis.
Rainbow Coalition,
I mean,
yes.
so much
Yeah.
movement and power in Minneapolis that really provided the framework. And it's also not just Democrats here, it's the DFL, the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, which is different. And you have a lot of strength in the unions. And so like all these things kind of coming together really provided a lot of framework and strength for people powered movements. And so media is kind of where I jump in. And Rosa, like you said, I was covering you in 2008 on the trail, and I continued to do that storytelling, with politicians, with community organizers, just really getting a temperature for where we're at today. So back in 2020 and 2021, when we were first starting to build what the new public access television would be in Minneapolis, I connected with independent journalist Georgia Fort, who was covering the Derek Chauvin murder trial. And at the time, we were brand new to broadcasting. So the first thing that we ever broadcast on our TV channels, so we air on Comcast Xfinity, was the Derek Chauvin murder trial.
Yeah.
Gavel to gavel coverage that Georgia Fort was, in the courtroom and doing live reporting from the scenes of protests, because that's when Dante Wright was killed. So during that trial, so then
let me just, I want you to go through this, but also for fam, remember, also Philando Castile. Like, people need to understand the many Black men who have been killed in the Twin Cities, and how the Twin Cities in the Midwest would be like more how people talk about West Coast, East Coast. The history alone, especially indigenous people, Black people's history, white privilege history. So you already you have all that historical knowledge.
Yeah. And then also one of the first films that I ever did, Streets of Freedom, was about political prisoners and the prison industrial complex. I went to New York and we talked about the murder of Sean Bell and Amadou Diallo. So my lineage in storytelling around police violence dates back 20 years. So of course, I want to be able to provide the stories from the community, from the perspective of, residents that live here that are impacted by the police violence. And so it was a natural connection to work with Georgia, who also does a lot of storytelling and reporting around police violence. So we hit the ground running. We set up a independent live streaming network where we were live streaming on multiple platforms and also on our TV channels. And so we responded in that moment to providing news and information to the community. I don't remember the final numbers, but it was in the millions of viewers that we got during that trial coverage. And a lot of times I would be looking at, the local NPR station and our station, and we had more viewers than a lot of the legacy or even corporate media at the time. And that really told us that people want trusted news information from sources, they trust, and people want independent news. And so, fast forward a few years, and the day that Renee Good was killed, Georgia was out live streaming and ended up calling and saying, hey, let's go. People need this information. So we were able to provide the network capabilities and the technical support. And also, I was working as her producer. So when she would be out in the field, I would be at home here at this exact computer. Actually, on StreamYard, we would be running her live stream through. And that's actually what Rosa's using today. So we would send out that signal and that live stream out to 8 different platforms at the same time. So
Yeah.
also live on TV. So it was.
So let me say, when you say live on TV, I think that's the whole point.
Yeah. So public.
Yes, here's social media.
Yes,
Well,
social media.
It makes it has to beg the question. This is what we're talking about, everybody. Public access is being really, really attacked. No one's been talking about it because that's a community, like you said. It's like a rapid response. Here we go. This is going on. We got the live stream. We got public access where also older people are watching like the news and they trust the news. And we're going to be here without like that legacy media nothingness. Like how could anybody think that legacy media was telling the true story and y'all were telling the true story?
Yeah, I mean, the importance of the live stream was to make sure that if a community organization was doing a press conference, that you could see it from beginning to end.
Exactly.
So that you have that record. And I think of Davey D a lot, right? Always telling me, like, if you don't film it yourself, it can just disappear. It could be gone forever. And so, I mean, the importance of independent media is that there is an accurate record of what was happening, because the corporate media is going to show you a small little snippet from that community press conference, or they're going to show you just the most sensationalized moments of protest, right? So having independent news, and there were a lot of citizen journalists out there live streaming. Everybody has a camera. People were going live. That's how we were able to track where ICE was in our city. There was just citizen journalists. Like if you were a resident, you were a citizen journalist getting that news and information out to your community, to your block, because the organizing, it happened block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, and city by city as well. So it was definitely shocking when after the coverage of the city's church protest, Georgia was there. It got a lot of attention because Don Lemon was also there. And we got information from X, where the assistant attorney general was saying that there would be an investigation into the protest and protesters. And they actually had used our video, Speak Minneapolis, on YouTube. They used that as the video to show the protest. And so it was a very concerning time for everyone involved. And we were trying to just get the most accurate information and stay prepared as journalists, as I believe the protesters were as well, with the threats of being arrested. So the federal government ended up arresting Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, and then subsequently more journalists that were there at City's church. And they are still facing charges. They are being called the Righteous 39. And I believe it's only 38 because there was a name mix up from someone. So it's really 38 people that are being charged. So I think they just got to still roll with the Righteous 39. And it's still the pressure from the federal government is, has a chilling effect on journalism. And you're seeing young people witness this, right? If we're running our youth program and they see and hear that journalists are getting arrested and storytellers are being silenced, what message does that say to our young people, and encouraging them to speak their truth and to be a journalist seeking out the truth?
And what it is too, like Generation Z, millennials, yes, but my daughter's in Generation Z, right? Like what they're witnessing in real time, our generation has never witnessed in real time, right? And now the need for trauma informed. And I see a lot in the education system about trauma informed. I think media should also be understanding trauma informed, because that's what your young people like. Again, they're seeing it right now. And also, that's a generation that for 2 years lived in their house, and it's a generation that has not been are legit just not reading books and can't even write, because they took that all the way during Common Core in the second Bush administration. But y'all are doing the work. You see what goes on with Renee, the response, and then Alex Preddy, because that's also traumatic for y'all. I want to know that moment where you were like, oh shit, something horrible just happened. And either I'm going to be there or we're going to have people that we trust there. So Ryan, like you heard it. What?
Yeah. Well, so one, before I forget, I want to talk about just how important Speak MPLS independent media is as a professor, right? So during all this, I'm teaching a justice and peace course in a predominantly white private independent college in St. Paul. And so I'm like, yo, all of this is planned. I'm literally doing a who owns the media message unit as the president of the United States and the attorney general is threatening to arrest journalists in my city. People I know, like that if I see you on the streets, I can say what's up to you. It was so wild, but it was compounded to the point that you just made, Rosa, of my students had no idea what to trust. Not only was it these people are lying to us, the people are lying are also the president of the United States is tweeting or whatever they call the truth social shits, AI images, false news stories. It's telling you that there's alternative facts and fake news. And so they're coming to me again out of COVID, experiencing trauma that that I know has experienced back to back, right? Like in this hyper connected world, they're witnessing a live streamed genocide, being told that they're terrorists if they think that that's wrong. And everybody who they're seeing on their screens is lying to them. And so it was Speak MPLS and George's work and B's work was so fundamental to me as a professor to say, hey, this is where you get real work. And I also want to shout out folks like Amy Goodman at Democracy Now! And, you know, the place at Al Jazeera English, places that you're like, yo, you got to go get outside of the U.S. perspective. You got to find these independent, down in the trenches media, because they're out here, right? Like they're out here, and you, to me, it was like a lifeline for not only me as a professor, but I could see it for my students, being like, oh, I know that. Yep, I can tell that this is a real thing, and this vibes with my worldview. This feels like truth telling to me, and I could see it be liberatory. So I just want to shout you out, B, for what you do, for what your team does. Rosa, you too, you've been on the ground. I remember the first thing I read from you was like, Russell Simmons isn't hip hop, using the power of the pen to tell the truth about things, right? That we didn't really get from the source and Double XL. Like it wasn't like that. So I wanted to speak to that, but back to so Renee Good, Alex Preddy. Actually, the morning that Alex Preddy got murdered, my brother called me. He was out there on the south side, and he was like, yo, they just got another person. Me and my dad are gonna go through. So my dad's 73 years old. He's going down there because he's an old time Vietnam vet. Like he wanted to do that.
Right. He's this like, dude, that's this. Like,
yeah, he's like, yo, I'm not, yeah, I'm doing this. And so they're walking to the space. They're not even at the protest yet. And there's like, you know, people are all around, you know, that the city was already up, right? And so,
you know what, Ryan, that reminded me was I was watching was Ferguson.
Yeah, right, it felt like
right, that. Like the minute it would still take maybe 30 minutes when it went down on Renee and everything. But also, like, Ferguson really became that because Tef Poe took a picture of Michael Brown's father on a piece of cardboard. Then it reminds me of hip hop. A piece of cardboard that said, "They just killed my stepson."
Yeah.
And
There's
then it
just
was
moments.
on Ferguson.
Yeah, there's moments like that. And so they're walking, and Customs Border Patrol agent shot a tear gas or a flashbang at the ground and broke my dad's jaw. He had 25 stitches. They had to reconstruct his whole jaw. 73 years old.
Oh.
And so, like, Alex Pretty, like, they weren't. I say that story not to garner sympathy. My pops is like, yo, it's cool. But just to show the level of dehumanization that people were going through, and the way that it was like us versus them, and the way the media just perpetuated that. Like, there was no place to stop and breathe and be like, yo, this person is dead on the street. And of course, his community is upset about this. Like, what are we going to do? How do we handle this? How do we allow space for grief, for mourning, for anything? Like, there was none of that. It was, these people are our enemy, and we're going to keep going because that's what we've been taught and told to do by the people with the most power. And it was only media that was allowing people to see what was really going on, right? Like, the people in charge had their tentacles on legacy media, traditional media. Like, you're suing news organizations for stories you don't like. That's crazy. That's crazy. And I've never been a fan of corporate media, but that shit was bonkers. When you couldn't even, like, when CNN is deemed too radical, you know you're living in the upside down for real.
Yeah. And so B, like, you're in real time. You Renee Good. And then obviously then Alex Pretty. Like, because you're watching and you're sending journalists out there in real time.
Yeah, we actually have a studio 2 blocks from where Alex Pretty was murdered. Damn. And it made it feel very real. And, you know, the immediacy of supporting our community. So on a typical day, we have people checking out cameras. They come in and book the studios, and that was still happening. And people were coming in to get cameras, and we would send them out with a helmet and a gas mask.
Can I just say how important that is for people to understand? When you think about media literacy, and we have all the left and radical things, what B Fresh is saying is citizen journalists were coming and signing out equipment as you would do in a library to cover the truth.
We were making sure that our studios stayed open so that people could share what they were feeling. We had a member that was in the middle of shooting a comedy show during, you know, this time, and she continued. And that was a shining light for me to take a moment to say, you know what, we can still laugh. We are humans. But it was a tough time. You know, one day we were doing up to like 5 live streams. And it was a lot, but in the moment that's what was necessary. That's what we were called to do. And then after the sort of surge, right, when all of the 3,000, 4,000 federal agents were in our city, after that died down, we started to see the impact. We started to see the immigrant businesses on our street. The street Alex Pretty was killed on, Nicollet, struggling. And so we actually stepped up as a media organization to collaborate with a neighborhood organization, Whittier Alliance, and a couple other businesses, The Coven and Zeus Jones, a creative agency. We all got together to do a fundraising campaign. It was called Show Up for Eat Street. And to date, we've raised over $200,000 for businesses on the street that Alex Pretty was murdered on. So you're seeing all, you know, the trauma of what happened at the beginning of the year. It's here still. The trauma. ICE is still arresting people.
Right. That's what I wanted you to say. Yes, like, that's the whole problem with this media, right? Like, what's going on in the detention centers, you know, what ICE is continuing to do. And then when you look at where you're looking as a journalist or somebody that's teaching journalism or media, the only daily show we do have is Democracy Now! In terms of what, worldwide perspective, state perspective, city. And that's why I think the attack on public access is coming to everyone like you who's in public access.
Well, that's why I'm trying to, keep it on the the down low a little bit, because I do believe that public access is going to be the last platform standing that people can go to for information without censorship. So if you upload a video to YouTube, you're not the person that has the ultimate say whether it stays on YouTube or not. We are at the whims of other corporations and media companies. So it's critically important to remain independent. Public access is a way that helps people stay independent. It provides the media capacity, the equipment, the resources, and the airtime on television. And the way that public access TV is supported is not like public media, where you think NPR and PBS. It's actually funded through cable subscribers. So in our region is Comcast, Xfinity. So anyone that has cable in our city pays a PEG fee. And that's a public education and government fee that goes to the city, to that municipality, to support public access TV. Then that money becomes a pass-through fund for supporting public access TV, which is something that we do. We're the operators in Minneapolis. There are between 1,300 and 1,700 stations like Speak Minneapolis across the country that still exist. But that's half of what it was 10 years ago. So the funding is going down because people are cutting the cord. They are getting rid of cable in favor of streaming services like Netflix and Hulu. I mean, do any of us have cable right now?
No.
Now I'm feeling kind of bad that I don't.
You're right. It's too expensive.
It's expensive, but then if you start adding up all your streaming services,
it comes out to
right?
It's true.
So, the funding mechanism is not aligned with where we are today. So the Cable Act was made in 1984, and a lot has changed in 42 years. And so we need to update the funding for how public access TV is supported. We will continue to protect public access TV because it is a place for freedom of expression, for free speech. We do not screen anyone that we put on the channels. We make sure that whatever you say is on air. And so, like I said, I believe that public access TV will be the last platform standing.
Yeah, I know. So as we wrap up, Ryan, your book, Breaking the Privilege Frame, I was like, oh, now I get it. Like, no, I get the politic you're putting out in this way. Like, at least for a little bit over a decade, there's been like so many reckonings around whiteness and white people, saying, okay, we have privilege. Like, I understand that. What you're saying in the book is like, yeah, you saying it has nothing to do with your actions. And I have to say, when I was reading, I was like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. And I said, maybe all these colleges and all these events I've done for decades, I definitely always had at most events a white young woman, and then they start crying. I mean, come on, y'all. Like,
that's like,
and you're like, they start crying, and then in the back of my mind, I was like, I cannot hold this labor. Like, you're just crying now. And what I have said a lot of times is understand your privilege. When you're saying this book, that shit ain't even enough. Like, it's the whole opposite. And that saying white privilege makes it very easy for white people to just say it and then go do and be part of the system of white supremacy.
Yeah, I am. So if I could take a couple minutes, because I think B, what you said about public access being the last kind of bastion. And I
Yeah.
think people misunderstand what social media is. Social media is not public access.
It's
Zuckerberg,
not
Musk,
communication strategy. That's what my
all
sister
that,
always
yeah.
says.
They're
Social
controlling
media
your
is not a
algorithm.
communication strategy.
They're not. And so a lot of people get it through me and they think, oh, if you put it on Facebook, you put it on the gram, you put it on TikTok or
Yep.
Twitter, that you're getting it out there. And that's not necessarily true. And the importance of citizen journalism. I need folks to remember Mayor Fry, and I forget dude's name who was in charge of it, but they put out a whole press release when they found out George Floyd was murdered that said a medical emergency took place. There ain't nothing to see here. It was only because of the courage of Darnella Frazier that the world was like, yo, y'all murdered that man. And ironically, given what I just said, is that happened on social media, right? But also I think that's why Trump, too, he was very, very clear about getting the social media tech bros behind him and saying like, yo, we're going to make sure that social media doesn't do this. You see it internationally with the freezing out of pro-Palestinian accounts and anything that tells the truth about that. Again, anything that's talking about land back or native sovereignty or anything like that. Social media is not the place where you're going to get free, unabashed free speech. Like, let's be clear. Use it for what it's good for, but be clear about what it is. And then to your point, Rosa, yeah, I say at first I was hesitant to say that or to like just out and out say that because the ideas of white privilege, and people who have done this work, people like yourself, people like Tim Wise and Peggy McIntosh, some other folks that have told the truth unabashedly about whiteness and used language of privilege. I've learned so much from and I have so much respect for. But the reality is being white isn't a privilege. It's advantageous to be white within white supremacy. But that entire system is going to kill us and the planet. And all you got to do is look back and see what's happening. Look and see what's happened since the 50s when, a multi-race, like, what have we done since the Industrial Revolution, since 1492? Like, how have we, like, we haven't taken seriously the ideas of repair and being whole and healthy. And now we have so much technological advancement that we could literally wipe out humanity. They're talking about wiping out civilization. Trump can really do that shit. Like, let's be clear. We got more nukes than we know what to do with. And this goofball in office is really that unhinged. And so it's really, really important, I think, right now that we start really taking seriously the idea that whiteness is harming everybody and begins with white people.
So, as an indigenous person, as someone who's raising a child, and then Ryan, you got your daughters, my daughter's a little earlier, there's always that moment where they begin to understand, like, oh, this is what my parents are about. And they will roll with you. But then when they get to high school and all the pressures, it's not that they're disappearing from the work. They're trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah, how they fit in.
Yeah, and also, like, in a lot of conversations, you will always, particularly like white women, will be like, I don't want to expose my child to this. And then you have Black and Latino mothers like, no, I don't want them to know all of this. My whole thing has always been like, that's a deficit. Like, if they're going to kill a 7-year-old Aiyana Jones by the Detroit police, like, how do you even think your child is safe? And then, that whiteness itself, depending on you participate or you reject whiteness, is not the panacea, because our children, like, y'all are living in real time. Like, when Alicia was your son's name, we have an image, and be fresh, your son's name, we were dealing for the most part with like the rising of Black Lives Matter. But now your son, Ryan, your daughter's a little younger than my Alicia, are like, what the I don't even really want to live here. Like, what's going on? Like, this is crazy. Or somebody said this to me. And then lastly, in this geographical location, all these children also not just seeing it, but I don't think there's been enough conversation around all the children that also have lived this trauma.
Right, that have seen their classmates
disappear. Yes, yes.
Right. And my
Yeah.
son was very much, in the loop about what I was doing, and I talked to him about it, and I brought him into this work by helping me edit something.
Mm.
So I actually went down to the Whipple building, which is where ICE was headquartered, and talked to some people. And my son, who's 10 years old, he knows video editing because he grew up with access to those
Yeah.
tools. So I had him sit down and help me edit the story.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
he was able to hear what someone said, and to think about, how do we tell this story? And we did that together.
Word.
And
Yeah.
he also, we had W. Kamau Bell come to our studio, and so my son was there that day and was able to talk about his experience. And while it wasn't, sensational, and like, he hasn't had friends that, have been kidnapped, he hasn't had friends leave the school. He does know that that's happened, and that people are scared, and that living through this time with a child, with someone that just is so innocent to the world, to be exposed in this way is very sobering. It's also motivating to make sure that you're giving them the background, the history, to understand where we come from as a family, and the strength of our ancestors, and that we've lived through a lot, and we've made it this far, and we are smart, and we are capable, and we are able to find the solution for the time. And for our family, it's storytelling.
I love that. So, as we wrap up, Ryan, like something you want the audience to know where they can find your book, and then
Yeah.
be how people can support the work. And one of them, especially with you in public access media, I hope that people who are watching this, that their public media access in their city or state is being attacked. I feel like y'all email Be Fresh and see the model of what is happening, because at the end of the day, if these people decide that Georgia Fort might have to quote go to trial or any, I don't trust any of it. I get that she's free, but I don't like this government right now, where we're learning every day how they're undermining and beginning new words around capturing people in this country, not based on something you said. And I am like, people are not really understanding where we're at. Or maybe some people are like, it's too much. Like, I'm not going to be able to go to work tomorrow. How would I even exist in this? So, yeah, Ryan, where people can find your book and kind of that, what you're breaking down in the book around, like, it has to go so beyond talking or going to an event.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one, yeah, thanks again for having me. It's so good to chop it up with you, both of you. I got so much love and respect for you both. You can get the book wherever you buy books. I can't guarantee that there's physical copies in your favorite bookstore, but if there ain't, they can order them for you. Yeah, Breaking the Privilege Frame. You can also follow me on Instagram at Ryan Verdon Official, and you'll see all the links, all that. I think what I would hope people take from this is honestly hopeful, man. I think the answer is in people, and that people who look like me have a role to play. And we don't gotta shrink. We gotta embrace that role. We gotta embrace our full humanity, which is not perfection. It's the messiness of being fully human. And I want us to be able to say that, and then stay through the process of being in relationship and in community with people, founded on your values. And I think that's the thing that is gonna move us past this sort of pendulum of anti-racism to white nationalism to anti-racism. Like, it's in our interest to get rid of racism.
Yeah, and like, at the end of the day, there's also been like a time period where like white people being like, I give up my white privilege, and then being like, completely about
you can't do that shit though. That's the
what I'm
thing that
saying.
kills
Like,
you can't do that. You
no.
can't do that. Look, you're about to get me worked up. Oh, that was the last thing. Hey, I spaced on the names. Miles Horton and Braden. These are people that you should know. Because to your point, like raising a kid right now, if I was my daughter is biracial and she knows, hey, dad's Irish. He moves in the world as white, and he's a type of white that is gonna put his body on the line, that's gonna do these things because he loves people and he moves in integrity with his values, tries to at least, right? And so I think that's the thing, right? That being white ain't Donald Trump and Hegseth. I hate that dude's from Minnesota. It ain't that, right? It ain't that. It's so much. It's not that. We have other models that we need to look at.
Absolutely. And be like, you know, around media literacy and where folks can find your work.
So people can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Rebecca Directs, and also Be Fresh Productions and Speak MPLS. So it's speakmpls.com. You can actually, anywhere in the world, watch what we have currently airing live on our public access TV channels. So yeah, stream us and really know that public access TV, it's a critical part to a healthy democracy. We ensure that people have a voice, that they have the resources, Rosa, like you said, media literacy, to understand what's happening in their communities so that they can respond and they can have a voice and they have power in the system.
Yeah, and I thank you both. And you know, I read the comments and a couple of people are like, it's mad long. I'm like, that's the problem. I'm like, this is me at a speaking engagement, the introduction, the keynote, then the Q&A. I'm like, if people think 2 hours is way too long, given where we at this moment of crisis, at this moment where like these people are legit figuring out how to disappear millions of people, how to not have an election, how to, or like all these kind of things. And I guess it goes to social media. It's not a 60-second soundboard bite. Like, are you trying to be an organizer? Then you need to read and you need to look at things like this. And it's not in a nice little package of 60 minutes. Like, that's not what we're doing here.
Hey, the JVP latest episode is 3 hours and 2 minutes long. I just looked it up. Come on, man.
I know.
If y'all can listen to Joe Budden and them, and I love the JVP, but y'all can listen to that for 3 hours. You can listen to some real shit for little less than 2.
And then, and that's exactly what it is, because people like us and some whatever goes down, we're going to figure out a way to survive because we have an understanding of what our politic is. For me, the politic is everything. What's your ideology? How are you coming into this space? Is it too long? There might be other things that make it really short for you. And that's the whole point of doing media literacy, because media has been broken into like the 2-minute thing. Mm-hmm. And that's what people are like. I watch the news. I was like, that's not the news, homie. Yeah. Like, exactly. Like this is the news. Like, this is the news. And if it wasn't so critical, we wouldn't be seeing the attacks of a system that knows the first thing that's got to go is people like us, the truth tellers, the educators, the journalists. That's who they're always going to. And the reason they're going to that is because when we are doing this work, we are winning the hearts and minds of our people, right? And that's not a 60-second soundbite. You're working maybe for years on something, and then when it all comes together, that's the power, because that's what we have right now. We have only the power of our voices, the power of us as activists, the power of us as organizers. So if it was too long, it's all cool. Just watch an hour of it and then watch the rest when you decide. That's exactly what it was saying. Yeah. So fam, like follow both Rebecca and Ryan, like, you know, I'm trying to come out there just because the more and more that these great uprisings have been happening in Minnesota, but the Midwest, where I think often the conversation does not include this geographical location, where it's like, yo, there's mad history, and it's indigenous history as well. Like, don't be making no land acknowledgement and then not rolling with people who are indigenous. Like,
Oh,
that's what you're talking about in your book, performative behavior, right?
yeah.
So like, I hate land acknowledgement. I'm just gonna be like, people ask me, I'm like, the only thing you should acknowledge is that the land should go back. Like, that's the only, like, you saying what land you're sitting on, that's performative.
Yeah. And let it, I did this whole history thing. I didn't even mention Standing Rock. And like, yeah, like it's occupied, for real occupied territory.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, fam. So hit me up. I will be back on Tuesday. Cash App, all of that. Support Black Liberation Media. And I'm just really grateful that I also was like, wait, I gotta try to see if Be Fresh can come right on. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, we need this conversation, especially for people that are geographically to where you are doing the work, that might be looking for something more radical as opposed to performative or reformative, you know. So, you know, I'll have you back on. And Ryan, you know, everybody get his book. Because right now, the power of the pen might be one of the only things we still have less in public access. So it doesn't matter if you're in the Twin Cities and you want public access, you know where to go. Everybody watching needs to find public access in their community and make sure it does not go away. And that's a struggle. Right. Like, if people want to be active in one thing, find your public access in your community and make sure it's not destroyed or disappeared, because without it, this may last. Social media, public access, and writing in books is going to last forever. And it's a commitment. If people want to be an organizer, this is what is a commitment. So, you know, I love you both. I thank you so much. I love this discussion. Yes, we'll do a little clips for the rest of y'all, but for everybody that's been watching, I really appreciate you. So yeah, someone let my guests go and do.
Peace, y'all. Thank y'all for having me.
No, and thank you. And I'll have you both back, you know, for sure.
Thank you, Rosa.
Love y'all.
Bye, Rosa.
Peace, fam. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know it was long, right? Like, hey, I'm coming back. Y'all know I love Instagram. So yeah, that's what it comes down to, right? Like, some things are not 59 minutes and tied up. And I have to say, I do a lot of interviews, and I think this is one of the best I've done in a long time, where we can dig deep into people who are doing the work, not for short term, but for the rest of their lives. You know what I'm saying? So please subscribe to Black Liberation Media. Thank you, everybody, on Instagram. I will be back on Tuesday, next Tuesday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. And yeah, I appreciate everybody. So just like I said, either follow my YouTube page, Rosa Clemente, or follow Black Liberation Media YouTube page, and share this interview with people that you love and trust. And, you know, all we got is us, fam. And this is part of who we are and all we have. Peace, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much, like I said, for tuning in. Like I said, follow my guests. And I'm super appreciative of people that are beginning to come into the space by me. I know so many incredible organizers and comrades and friends that are really doing the work of sustaining movements, you know? So subscribe to Black Liberation Media. Follow me on Instagram, Black Puerto Rican PhD, or my YouTube channel, Rosa Clemente. I'll see y'all next week. Peace, everybody.